Hey everyone, AMD reported fiscal year 2023 fourth quarter earnings results, and I wanted to use that to update my recommendation of AMD stock. Coming into this quarterly update, I had AMD stock rated as one of my top stocks to buy in 2024. I've had AMD stock rated as one of my top stocks to buy all year long. So you're going to want to tune in to see if I'm keeping AMD stock rated as one of my top stocks, if I'm downgrading it, if I'm taking it off my list completely. This is going to be an interesting analysis. So let's jump in. Let's see what kind of progress AMD made in catching up in the AI market.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so AMD Chair and CEO Dr. Lisa Su said that demand for our high-performance data center product portfolio continues to accelerate, positioning us well to deliver strong annual growth in what is an incredibly exciting time as AI reshapes virtually every part of the computing market. That is optimistic if you are confused. That is extremely bullish from the CEO. When CEOs talk about accelerate, that's a step above growth. Growth is just, we're going to do better this year than we did last year. Okay. Accelerate means our rate of growth is going to increase. Not only are we going to do better this year than we did last year, but we're going to do better this year compared to how well we did last year. So our rate of improvement is going to improve this year coming out of the CEO. And we've been waiting to see that from AMD. Nvidia already experiencing the surging revenue from AI. AMD, not yet. And we're going to see that. We're going to see that while they are on the cusp of that increase in profitability revenue from AI, it's just not quite there yet. Not on the level of Nvidia, to be sure. So in the fourth quarter, revenue increased to 6.168 billion. That was up 10% year over year. Solid growth, to be sure. Gross profit increased to 2.9 billion. That was up by 21%, and the gross margin improved to 47%, up from 43% year over year. So AMD demonstrating its ability to generate operating leverage, revenue growing 10%, profit growing 21%. You like to see that from an investment. You like to see the ability to grow profit faster than revenue. That means each percentage growth in revenue is going to lead to a greater magnitude increase in profitability. Operating expenses were roughly flat. So that means the revenue growth led to increasing operating income, 342 million, which was up about 330% from a loss of 149 million in the same quarter the prior year. Remember, 2022 was a challenging year for AMD. The company sells CPUs and GPUs, and it's exposed to the computer industry, to the PC industry. 2022 was a down year for PCs. 2023 was also down. So when people are buying less computers, that's bad news for AMD. And people were buying less computers in 2023 and 2022 because they bought so many in 2020 and 2021. Right at the onset of the pandemic, people were adjusting to their changing lifestyle. People who used to go to school in person now needed to learn from home. I was teaching university. I went from teaching university in person to teaching from home. All of my students all of a sudden needed to be on Zoom for lecture instead of being in person for lecture. And so if my students were living in a household that had just one computer that used to serve the whole household, now everyone in the household needed a computer, right? People were working from home, learning from home. One household per one computer per household was no longer enough. So that created a surge in 2020 and 2021, but then that created a gap in 2022 and 2023 because computers are long-lasting goods, right? People don't upgrade their computer every year or even every 2 years, right? The upgrades barely start on the third year, and most often the average is between 4 and 6 years of computer upgrades. So now that people have spent nearly 4 years on the computers they bought in early 2020, Now is the time that upgrade cycle will be coming due, and that's going to be good news for AMD. That's going to be good news for AMD. So operating margin increased to 6% from negative 3%, and net income jumped to $667 million, up from $21 million in the same quarter the prior year. But remember, the prior year was depressed because of that lack in personal computing sales. If we look at the full year 2023 for AMD, revenue was down 4% and gross profit was down 1%. So like I mentioned earlier, AMD did not experience that boom in demand from the rising effectiveness of AI the same way that NVIDIA did. AMD is playing catch up, and suppliers, purchasers, clients are waiting for AMD to really step up because they want an alternative to NVIDIA. Buyers don't want to rely on NVIDIA as the sole supplier of GPUs into the AI market. That gives NVIDIA too much negotiating power, and it also increases the risks that the supply chains could become disrupted if NVIDIA has any difficulty, or perhaps it may not be able to meet the demand, the soaring demand for these AI computer chips. And so buyers want to encourage AMD to get itself going, to really increase its offerings. So part of the reason why AMD stock was falling after the earnings announcement was because of this outlook. For the first quarter of 2024, AMD expects revenue to be approximately $5.4 billion, plus or minus $300 million. From the previous quarter, AMD expects data center segment revenue to be flat, with the seasonal decline in server sales offset by strong data center GPU ramp. So investors were hoping for a more optimistic outlook from AMD, but again, AMD forecasting growth that is less than stellar, less than what Wall Street wants. Wall Street is kind of pushing AMD along and saying, look what's happening with NVIDIA. We want you to deliver those types of revenue growth, and AMD is simply not doing that. It is improving, growth is accelerating, its prospects are excellent, but Wall Street wants more. Wall Street wants AMD to truly deliver these types of exponential increases in revenue, the type that NVIDIA is reporting. But AMD is not NVIDIA. NVIDIA, I've said before, is at least one step ahead, and arguably multiple steps ahead of the competition. So I think Wall Street is getting a little bit ahead of themselves in wanting AMD to be so similar to NVIDIA. Still, despite that, I think AMD is an attractive stock still. I don't like it as much as NVIDIA, because if you look at valuation, AMD is trading at a forward price to earnings of 31.26 when you can get NVIDIA at a cheaper value at 30.41. And I've went through the whole statement talking about how NVIDIA is delivering so much better performance. So if you're looking at riding this AI wave, I've been recommending NVIDIA as the better choice. Still, I like AMD stock. I recommend AMD stock as a buy. In fact, I recommended AMD stock as one of my top stocks to buy. And after these earnings results, I'm keeping AMD stock as one of my top stocks to buy. I was satisfied with the earnings report, with the progress the company made in accelerating growth, and I'm keeping AMD stock in my list of top stocks to buy. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.